中国过分了。
场景一
century, the 1800s are largely Europe. The 1900s are largely the United States. The 21st century is going toward Asia, India and China for sure, and then China's just going to run the show. I mean, it's not even a question. You know, the nature of ups and downs of power sources, it's like sports teams. Those of you who are really into sports, you know, like one team is the powerhouse, and then a few years later, they're not the powerhouse because they have to rebuild, and that's the nature of life. The group that's on top at one point won't be on top at the next point. It just goes up and down and up and down. And the United States will not be ruling the world throughout history. It's not going to happen. The next century is really we're headed to the China century. There's not a question. And part of it is because y'all have a government. Like when you need to make something happen, you just make it happen. Like we don't. We just get mired down in people arguing with one another. Like our entire infrastructure in the United States is just crumbling into nothingness, and we're just like wasting time doing stuff.
场景二，
我的门口啊，波兰捷克就挨着俄罗斯嘛。他说我是帮着俄罗斯，帮着欧洲呢，来反这个伊朗的导弹。哦，那你是好事啊。那个普京说。那干脆这样，我派一个导弹旅直接参加到你这个反导系统里头去吧。当时记者招待会，哇塞，就把美国总统这个三个地方一块江里就把我给乐坏了。我说这智商，马上就说我派一个导弹旅，咱们一块值班，是吧？啊，135你，246我，咱们一块就是，美国吓傻了，一下不知道怎么回答，没有这个预案啊。最后说不行，如果不行，不让你想保护我的安全，又不让我参与到保卫我的安全里头去，那我就把伊斯坎德尔部署这儿。你敢在这部署，我直接就给你干掉，点对点的。那想想看，韩国这玩意儿随时在我们的导弹瞄准范围，东风11、东风15，马上就给你干掉。你在这儿还有好处吗？文在寅上来之后明确的说，萨德一定给他弄掉。就是反对党啊，将来上来就说我一定给你弄掉，绝不能因为这个事情把关于跟中国的关系搞坏了。中海，我们现在你看，我们中国和俄罗斯的贸易，我们关系很好。我们的贸易才600多亿美元，中国和俄罗斯600、700亿美元。中国和整个的东盟10个国家，去年1500多亿美元。我们和韩国的贸易3000多亿美元。这么小个国家，3000多亿。
场景三
Try to copy the European culture, but the problem is Chinese culture is very famous, it's very important for us.
It's this mix between all the new, intimate, small scale and super large and metropolitan. That's amazing. And that balance is extremely hard to find anywhere in Asia. And I want to urge Shanghai to keep that balance.
It's been kind of mixed up with many foreigners, companies and principles, and I find it very special. And I don't know, I cannot still say if this is a good thing or is a bad thing.
场景四
Order. Mr. Wallace, please, I respect your governmental responsibilities and the seriousness with which you take them, but I do appeal to you just to listen to the exchanges. You can always look wise, that's not very difficult for you, but it's best for you just to listen. And as to the order, as to the PPS sitting behind you, Mr. Hoare, you're a junior member of the House, trying to come to terms with your responsibilities as a parliamentary private secretary. Your role is just to sit there and to nod or shake your head in the appropriate place. That is your role. That is your responsibility. It's not for you to sit there giving a...
场景五
Their economy, an economy of almost 1.5 billion people, one of the poorest places on this planet, is now the second economic power, and within a decade will likely overtake the United States in sheer output. This is an unbelievable achievement. It is a greater, more rapid economic development than any capitalist country has achieved by a lot. This year, for example, the Western press crows Chinese economic growth is only 6.2%. Yeah, the United States is 2%. So, and that's been the ratio, 2 to 3 to 1, which is why the gap is narrowing and they're catching up, because in a bad year they grow 2 to 3.
场景6
America has none. Our fastest train is the tram that goes around the zoo. China sees a problem and they fix it. They build a dam. We debate what to rename it.
场景7
Side of the moon. Do you think the Russians don't know that for the first time since John Glenn was sent up to orbit this planet, America cannot put a person into space without asking the Russians to do it? That we're not investing in the young generation of Americans? That we're willing to lose the race for artificial intelligence to the Chinese when China is rising? The China's GDP has quadrupled since 2001, tripled since 2003, doubled since 2009. Do we think that no one in the rest of the world knows all of that about us? For 10 years. For 10 years, Madam President. And now we're here with the government shutdown over his broken promise while the Chinese...
场景8
but they are non-interventionist. Absolutely non-interventionist in a way that Europeans, the West, has never managed to fathom. The Chinese never asked Apple to go to Shenzhen and produce all the iPhones. It was Steve Jobs that decided that. Yeah? Mm-hmm. When it comes to the influence of China outside its borders, it's quite remarkable that they don't seem to have any military ambitions. Instead of going into Africa with troops, colonially, destroying the country, killing people like the West has done for the last 100 years, what they did was they went to Addis Ababa and they said to
场景9
有一个是刷脸查航班的，我脸对准这个，然后它就会显示你的航班信息。可是我刚刚就是找不到我的航班信息，没关系。
场景10
who suffers daily on substandard train services. That absolutely can't be right. And I was looking into this earlier and just wondering, for the sake of argument, how the Chinese do these things. And I noticed that they were able to build a whole new station in the space of 9 hours by flooding it with thousands of workers. We should be much more imaginative about getting infrastructure in quickly instead of condemning people to being isolated in remote areas.
Well, and I shared a taxi coming here, and the commentary I can tell you in the taxi was that the roads looked better than the area where we were living in England. I'm delighted to hear it, but I have to say to you, it was much better than in Buckinghamshire. But everybody in their own area complains, and the truth is our road repairs have been very, very bad, and it's deteriorating. And yes, austerity has prevented expenditure on all sorts of things that we could need to spend money on, but equally,
场景11
arguably, it's one of the first settled with the Fertile Crescent, the first settled agriculture in the world. So China has a very, very long history, and maybe instead of people being surprised about China's rise now, this is the wrong way of looking at it. What we should be surprised about, maybe, is not the period since 1978, but what the hell went wrong between 1800 and 1949. Because for the most of the rest of the thousands of years of Chinese history, it was arguably one of, and often the most advanced country.
场景12
这个国务院就开始推广，11年的年底，他们推广一个营养中餐，现在每一年就花了多少40亿美元，给超过3000万个孩子一个营养中餐。你看中国政府，这个是一个看不清楚的问题，一个 invisible problem， 对不对？后来发现问题，发现怎么解决这个问题，中国就是一下子都推广 692个贫困县的营养中餐的项目啊，这个没有一个国家没。
场景13，
中国好的报道，几乎所有的媒体都在说中国不好。直到我哥哥娶了我嫂子，他是中国东北的，他安排我们一家人来到中国。我第一次来就爱上了这里，后来我搬来中国，到今年快5年了。我现在只要有机会就会跟我的外国朋友说中国有多好，我也会拍一系列的视频。
场景14，
就要兑现自己的承诺，采取切实的行动，真正的来实现应对气候变化的目标。可是我们现在看一些国家，我们不是看你说什么，我们是看你在做什么。到现在为止，有一些国家已经做出了承诺，但是他并没有落实他的承诺，并没有兑现他的承诺，并没有采取真正的行动。大幅度率先减排，讲了吗？要为发展国家提供资金和技术，你提供了吗？我们讲了20年，到现在并没有兑现。我们是发展的国家，我们要发展，我们要消除贫困，我们要保护环境，该做的我们都做了，我们已经做的你们还没有做到。
场景15。
The population of China is more than four times the population of the United States. This means that when China's GDP per capita becomes 23% that of the United States, China's economy becomes as large as the economy of the United States. It means that when China's per capita GDP became half that of the United States, which is still inadequate from the point of view of China achieving the highest living standards in the world, China's GDP would be twice the size of the United States, and China would become the most powerful country in the world. This is not a problem, actually, for humanity. In fact, this is the biggest step forward for China that could be imagined for humanity. Again, let's do a little arithmetic. Taking the World Bank definition of what is a high-income economy, which is just about over $12,000 per year per capita GDP. At the present time, 19.2% of the world's population lives in such economies. So let's call it 19.
场景16.
Sadly, less and less true. Patriotism and national pride are on the rise. You know, for the first time, people in China feel proud to be Chinese. So why does all this matter? I think it matters because we in the U.S. are in danger of falling behind and not even realizing it as China races into the future. Instead of pointing fingers and instead of trying to keep China down, which won't work anyway, I think we need to focus on how to make America.
场景17.
So low, it is insane. It's one of the safest countries in the world. Now, you want to talk about safe and America. You can't even say that in the same sentence. Not only are you going to get shot by the police, especially if you are a minority.
场景18.
中国那边的菜市场有什么区别吗？还有 market 更喜欢在菜市场买东西，还是去超市里面买东西呢？上一次我把你们带上，我们去看了一下中国的超市，然后今天咱们再去一起了解一下中国菜市场的一个情况。那么首先给你们了，你们更喜欢在菜市场买东西，还是说你们觉得？
场景19.
American people can use chopsticks. Courtesy at the highest level, on a societal level.
Societal level. Yeah, that's deep. So, other than the Great Wall, name 2 famous sort of scenic tourist spots in China.
The Bund in Shanghai, the tower that has the balls on it. That's a good one.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
The Oriental Pearl Tower?
Yes, that one.
Terracotta, is that?
Terracotta Warriors.
Warriors, yeah. Forbidden Palace and the Temple of Heaven.
Forbidden City.
The Imperial City in Beijing.
I thought that was at the palace. Oh, okay. The Olympic compound.
This just means I'll have to take a trip to China because I have no idea.
Don't know. Yeah. The Buddhist temples. Is that right?
Tiananmen Square.
The Forbidden City. The Warrior Palace, I believe that is called.
Victoria Peak.
Victoria Peak. Forbidden City, Temple of Heaven. What about the terracotta warriors in Xi'an? The Shenzhen factories, which I think are scenic, because that's where everything's made.
Mount Everest.
场景20。
很难用简单的道理来区分谁对谁错，说不清，各说各话。但对我们来说，太紧迫了，叫世界百年未遇之世界大变。2点，一点是中国的经济总量超过了美国忍受的极限，他一般把这种极限定位在60%。当你的总量超过我的经济总量的60%，那就说明你要对我老大的地位构成威胁啊！无论你是英国，你还是日本，你是兄弟还是对手，都不行。心态可以理解，但这种想法有点不太合适。能不能超过你，关键在你自己呢，不在于别人。如果你做得好，你发展得好，别人永远超不过你。